Hello and welcome back to the channel with me, the Orienteering Kid, where today we're in Turkey for the first round of the TURUS tournament. Now, like last video, you can see that my camera has decided it doesn't want to work again, and I really can't help that. It will decide to work later, I'm sure. But we do have a really good event today. We have the start of the TURUS tournament, which, if you hadn't heard already, is the replacement for this year's ETOC, the European Trailer Championships. And as they've had to be postponed for another year, we've got this 5-day event to sink our teeth into and have some great fun doing Trello virtually. As I said, it's a 5-day event and it's your best 3 scores that are going to be counting, with an interesting spin at the end where the top 32 competitors are going to go into a grand final streamed over Zoom to decide who is the winner of this tournament. So this should be great fun. We only have to be aiming for the top 32 at the moment, but I'm sure whatever position we come today we're going to have a lot of fun. So let's just jump straight into it now. Here we're going into the TURUS tournament, which is a really big tongue twister section, and we are going into event 1, which today was based around the ETOC model event, but don't be fooled by that, this is still a proper competition. And we have a map of 1 to 3000 with 2 meter contours. We have 5 stations with a 30-second penalty for every wrong answer, and the zero tolerance is 4 meters, no exceptions. The terrain is forest, and the instructions are that today we are visiting a nature reserve where only Trello of orienteering sports is allowed. Birds are currently nesting, we have to behave, and red and white arrows are on top of the picture showing positions of the flags. So yeah, this does look really good. It's a forest Trello, so it's not my strongest area, but I'm sure we're just going to have a lot of fun. As always, my answers will be appearing in the top right hand corner of the screen, so you can see exactly what I'm putting, correct or wrong, with the black and red letters respectively at the moment that I do. And yeah, with that, let's have a go at this first round in the TURUS Trophy. And here is station 1. Okay, we've got some boulders around. It looks like there's a rootstock as well by Charlie. That looks like the rootstock, so 2 boulders, so it's got to be Bravo. And that boulder is too far away. The other boulder is going to be Alpha. That is the correct boulder to be Foxtrot with the rootstock of Charlie to finish off. And that was quite a nice simple station for me to open in on. A couple of boulders around with the kites on to quite nicely place us, and I'm glad I managed to spot Charlie as a rootstock to start with, because that was exactly what I anchored on, with the pair of boulders on the left hand side being Bravo and Alpha, and we knew the first task there was going to be Bravo. At no point was I really sure where Delta was, but that didn't end up mattering. It was just in the middle of nowhere. It was just in front of us as an extra kite there, and also the zero going off to the right hand side I think was pretty clear, especially going to the 4th task afterwards and seeing that that should have been Foxtrot. So I'm happy with that one to start us off, and we will just go now on to station 2. Okay, it seems to be an open area with again a lot of boulders. Charlie's on a boulder at the back. That boulder, so it looks like we're actually off to the left, so that is a 0. Top of crag is going to be Echo. Boulder right back there. I can believe that's got to be Charlie coming forward. 2 crags, boulder. I can believe that's Foxtrot again, and then that boulder up there is going to be Bravo to finish off. So a slightly slower station there, but the first task being 0 miles to the right hand side of where we actually wanted was fairly clear. I could see we're in an open area, it's quite a long open area, and the boulder we wanted was nowhere near that, so it must have been a 0 before going to the top of the crag, which we couldn't see because it was descending behind Echo, but you could kind of see a bit of rock, and I think it was clear that Echo must have been there. The one I think I thought about the most there was the 3rd task going back to Charlie, but it was the only boulder of the map in the area, and there was only one boulder I could see that had Charlie on it, so it must have been that before the other 2 coming to Foxtrot and Bravo as well. I am very happy with that, and so we will just move on to the middle station of today, crossing the halfway point throughout station 3. Okay, it looks like a crag there with a bit of bare rock as well. That looks like a crag that could fit, and we are on the road. So there's the spur. We seem to be about where Bravo is. Going back to a crag back there does seem miles away, and that spur is Alpha. That re-entrant then, it's either Delta or Echo. We want it to be there, so I think that is going to be Echo, and coming down to the crag for Foxtrot to finish off. So slowing down a bit more there with a 34-second station, but I think this was the hardest station of the 3 so far. What really helped there was to be able to see the road just to the edge of the photo, so we knew we were on a road, which meant that matching up the first task was quite nice. It was just moving to the second task miles away from the road, where we had a moment of doubt, but I was very sure we were in the right place, so I knew that one was a 0. Returning to task 3 on the spur, which we had identified in task 1 to be Alpha, next to Bravo. The 4th task for me there took the longest though, identifying whether it was Delta or Echo in the re-entrant. I'm pretty sure it's Echo, but I'm prepared to be told it was Delta, before coming down to Foxtrot to finish off. And we are now more than halfway in this 5-station event, and so we are just moving on to the penultimate station of the day, which is Station 4. Okay, we've got the open area on the left hand side and some boulders on the right. We can see the road running through as well. That must be the open area, although identifying the specific section, I don't think that's there. No, that doesn't seem to be the right place. Okay, we've come down here. End of a hill. I'm struggling to see this as well. I think this should be right in front of us, so I think that's a 0 as well. We've gone in the boulders now. Okay, so I'm thinking this one might be Echo because it's in there. I think I'll go with Echo and then here to Foxtrot, and then that boulder. Can I believe that's... Maybe this one's got to be Foxtrot. No, I'm going to stick with it, 0 it. And that is by far the hardest station for me so far, with 75 seconds. That's half the time was allowed, and most of it was probably spent on that final task, although there was quite a bit spent on that first task. I don't think I ever properly placed myself because the area looked quite similar throughout. But I'm fairly confident with the first one being a 0, as it did seem to be quite far away from where all the other tasks were. I think I'm probably wrong with some of the later tasks on the boulders though, as I think I probably should have put 0 when I put Echo, and maybe Echo when I put 0. I'm not completely sure, but we'll have to have a look at that afterwards. It wasn't too bad though. I think you could probably solve that fairly easily in the time. I was just struggling to myself, and that is what happens sometimes. But we do have to forget about that now, and we'll just go straight into the final station of the day, which is Station 5. Okay, we've got a road running back there as well. It looks like crags again, potentially. Okay, that is a big crag, top of the spur. I can believe that is, so that's kind of got to be Charlie, and then that re-entrant. I don't think any of them are in the right one. So that boulder, so it's got to be higher than the boulder. Maybe it is Foxtrot. Okay, I'm going to go with Foxtrot, and then that crag by the boulder must be Alpha. That re-entrant down there, I think that's got to be Echo, and then that boulder of Bravo to finish off. And it is a time of 187 seconds for 5 stations, which feels a bit long, but it is forest, so it is quite difficult. And that 4th station definitely threw me a lot with 3 zeros. But let's go and have a look at 3 of the stations now to see them properly. And with this first one, as we said, we've got 3 boulders right in front of us, which were the key things, and really that rootstock right back there with Charlie on it, which gave everything away here as we looked in the area and we tried to work out where we could be. And the only major rootstock we can see is this one here. So we look at this and we decide whether other things are matching up with it, and we come down to where we want, which is 2 small boulders right in front of us, and we can see on the left hand side there are 2 boulders with Alpha and Bravo on them. We want the right hand of the 2, so it's going to be Bravo or nothing, and it's on the northern side, so it must be Bravo to start off the station. I do think it was quite easy to place us here, so well done if you did manage to get that one to start us off. But we then moved to the second task, and we wanted a boulder that's to the right hand hand side of the rootstock and all the way back by the rootstock, so we can look at Charlie and we want it to be as far back as Charlie is. However, all the kites seem to be a lot closer, and so even if we're considering Foxtrot here, it's too close to us to be correct, and it must be a boulder further down, maybe that boulder over there, and so this must be a 0 for the second task. Well done if you did manage to spot that one. Before we then came forward to the pair of boulders again, and this time we wanted the one on the left hand side, so this must be Alpha, and then a boulder between the boulder that we had in the second task and the boulder right in front of us, which must have Echo on it. So really again, it's either going to be Foxtrot or nothing, like the second task, but this time we've come a lot closer. And if we have managed to distinguish that this is the boulder that is here on the edge of the circle, and this boulder is the one right in front of us, we're going about halfway between, and Foxtrot does seem to be about halfway between. So I'm happy with Foxtrot there for the fourth task. Before finally we move to the rootstock, and wanting the northern side of this rootstock again, we have very clearly said that it is Charlie for the final task in this station. And I did think this was quite an easy opener for the event, working us into the woodland area, and so well done if you did manage to open the event with a full house. But we did then move on to station 2, and we had a slightly different view of things here, as it's one really open channel with woodland either side, and all the kites seem to be surrounding the channel on boulders. So when the map came up and we wanted a boulder in the middle of the woodland, I was immediately suspecting that this one would be a 0, but I wanted to check areas where we could be, and on the map I could see a long strip of semi-open land here, which did seem to match this area very nicely and not the area over here in the middle of the woodland, and so I was fairly quick to zero that, even though it took me 5.6 seconds. Just checking the area, I was confident in that one being 0, and we confirmed that as we moved to the second task here, and we wanted the northwestern crag and the top of that crag. So we've come to the strip of open land, so I'm confident we are in about the right place. We're going just into the woodland on the right hand side though, and looking at where this crag is, we're looking on the right hand side, and you can see some trees coming out over the ground, but it doesn't look like it's the bottom of the trees. It looks like the ground sort of descends and the trees are lowered down, and you can kind of see a small shadow here of what could potentially be rock, and so I was confident that the cliffs were around here. And so looking at the right hand side as well, we can see Foxtrot's on a boulder, and the only boulder on the right hand side is this one here. So at this point I was saying Foxtrot's on this boulder, and so of the two crags, the bottom crag is very close to Foxtrot, and so must be about here, and the top crag must be further up, so about where Echo is, and Echo is definitely on the top of this said crag and seems to be in about the right place from Foxtrot. So on that I was happy to put Echo for this second task, as to me it was clearly in the right place, and I think it is definitely now. So well done if you did manage to spot that, especially coming from the first task if you did believe it. But I was happy with that for the second task, and then for the third one we went further back to a boulder, wanting the southern side of that boulder. And if we're following round from where Echo was, we see that the open land seems to end on the map, and it kind of seems to end about here, going into the shadowy trees, and we can see a boulder back there with Charlie kind of covered by some shadows. So to me that was a sign that the boulder that Charlie's on is in the woodland, which is what we want from the map, and it does seem a lot further back, and really being the only boulder in the circle, this is the only boulder in a large area, and so I was happy to basically say that it's the only boulder there, it's the only boulder it could be, and so it must be Charlie, and I am still happy with that now. It just all seemed to fit, so we're going to stick with Charlie for that for the third one. And then for the fourth one we do come back to the boulder which we did say in the second task was Foxtrot. I don't know why this took me so long, maybe I was just doubting myself, as I could also see a bit of rock here, but I think that's the rock down here, and this one is definitely Foxtrot for the fourth task, before going back to the other side of the open land and a bit more northwest than Foxtrot, going up to another boulder kind of opposite where Echo was, and that does seem to be where Bravo was, definitely on the southeastern side of that boulder, making Bravo the answer to this final task. And for a second station I did think it got a bit harder than the first one, but I don't think it was too bad at all. So if you did manage to do well in that station again, very well done. But we then moved on to the middle station of the day, which is station 3, and here what we had was, to me, a small bit of road on the left hand side, which was quite nice to spot, but two crags out there in the back with potentially a re-entrant running between them. Now when the map came up and I could see there was a road here, I was immediately thinking we were stood on this road, which did end up being correct, I'm pretty sure. And so the only place we could be looking at these two crags is the first two crags in this line, as there doesn't seem to be any really close on the right hand side. And so knowing we're on these two crags on the right of this line, we want the left hand of the two, so it's going to be this crag here. And what details can we see around it? Well, I can see there is a small spur on the left hand side, just to the left of where we want the centre of the circle as well. So we're looking on the left hand side of this crag, and I can see that Alpha is on a small raised bit of land, which very much looks like the spur that is to the left hand side of the crag that we want. And so with Alpha being there, we come to the right hand side a bit, and we can see that Bravo is quite nicely placed on a crag. So that did seem to be in the right place. You can see that the crag does come out here like where we want it on the map, and so I'm pretty sure that is Bravo for the first task in this station. It did take me 11 seconds to get there, but it was quite hard to place us, so well done if you did manage to get that. And then for the second task, I was very confident in moving to this crag and seeing that we had moved miles away from where we'd originally placed, and all the kites were quite close to us. So being very confident we were in the right place, I was quick to zero that one, and even quicker for the third task to come to the spur, which we have already talked about, having Alpha on top. So the second and third tasks there for me were very easy, but only because I was confident in my placing for the first task and I'd used the third task for the first one. But then moving on to the fourth task, I slowed down a lot, as here we wanted a re-entrant, and we wanted the middle re-entrant in the circle. And I think what was confusing me here is the circle seemed to be on the top contour of this re-entrant coming in, and I hadn't noticed the re-entrant on the right hand side, which is why this one must be middle. So we do want this top contour, and so looking at it, we want the re-entrant going between the two crags in front of us. So Charlie, Delta and Echo all seem to be in this re-entrant, but we want the top contour. So I think Charlie's on this contour down here, Delta's on the contour in the middle between the two, and Echo's on the contour higher up, being the contour we want. So I am happy that that one is Echo. This was the longest task in the station for me, but I am happy with it now, and 14 seconds is always better than the 30-second penalty. So well done if you did manage to spot that before we then came down to the crag on the right hand side of the pair of the two, and this one must have been Foxtrot to finish off the station, very nicely placed there. And I did think this was definitely ramping up the difficulty for the third station. Things got a bit harder trying to place us, but spotting that the road was on the left hand side of the picture definitely really helped. So well done if you did manage to get that. But then we moved on to station 4, and this is probably the hardest station of the day for me, as what we had here was a patch of open land to left hand side, potentially 2 hills here I was seeing, a boulder as well, and then some boulders in some woodland, and I could also see the road in the background. So the map came up and I could see the road in the background kind of running in a similar direction to this bit here, so I was happy to try and place us there. And so I was saying that the boulders that Delta, Echo and Foxtrot are in are this patch of boulders here, which did end up being the case, but it got a bit harder than that, as what we wanted to start us off with for this station was a boulder miles to the left hand side of where I was placing us, and I was struggling to try and make this bit fit, to be honest, because I'd seen 2 hills here, and so I was struggling to find 2 hills close enough in this area. But I think fairly clearly now is there's a hill here, which is this hill here, I'm going to say, although this could be very wrong actually, we will see later, this is just what I'm speculating. And then there's some boulders which are the boulders here, and then this hill seems to just be the top of this area, but it doesn't seem to be far enough down to be in the centre of the circle here on this boulder, and neither of them are actually on boulders, so I'm fairly confident this one is a 0 to start off the station. It did take me 20 seconds to get there, and even looking at it now I can't be too confident, but I'm going to stick with that one being a 0. And then the second task came, and we wanted the southern part of this hill, and now looking at it I'm wondering whether it is Bravo here, and maybe this boulder isn't mapped and Charlie's actually down here. That seems to be making more sense because we can't see the crag either, and so I might change to that story actually, making this one Bravo on the southern side of the hill that we want. Alpha does seem to be over here on the top of the hill, and Charlie down here. And this is where I'm realising I've probably got a lot of this station wrong, but let's have a look as we go into the third task, and we're going down the hill to a boulder. So looking at this I'm thinking it's probably Echo still, although I'm surprised I did put Echo considering my first look at it in the first 2 tasks, and still believing Bravo and Alpha are over here. But coming down we can see there's a couple of boulders around, which could be these boulder fields, and then we're coming down to a boulder that's just in front of them on the right hand side, which could easily be that boulder, Echo being on the northern side of that boulder. So I'm going to stick with Echo for the third task, and then for the fourth one we went to a boulder which came a long way forward, and I was wondering whether this one should be Foxtrot or 0, but I'm still thinking it's going to be Foxtrot on the western side of the boulder that we can see there, as that does fit the control description. Trying to fit it from the boulders down here, knowing that echoes this one, I think that this boulder and the boulder field, maybe even is this stuff here, just in the open land actually, although it doesn't seem further back than this. But then I could believe that this is an unmapped boulder like this one, and this is where Foxtrot actually is. So I'm going to stick with Foxtrot again for that one, thinking I've probably only made one mistake in this station, but moving to this final one and wanting that boulder, maybe this one is Delta and it's a second mistake. It was definitely between Delta and 0 that I was debating here, and I'm thinking now it probably is Delta, as we have managed to fit Echo and Bravo quite nicely either side of it. So maybe that one is Delta, and it was 2 mistakes in that station, although I am prepared to say it was 3. We have 43, we will see later. And overall that probably was the hardest station of the day. Quite a tough one, especially going into the final station. Having this one in the back of your mind that you need to do well in this final station probably would have thrown you a bit in this final station and made sure you were getting things right. But well done if you did manage to do well in that station. That's probably the hardest of the day. Before we then moved on to the final station here, and we went back into a more thicker woodland, although it does seem to be a bit more open right in front of us, kind of like station 2. And I did see the road right at the back, and also potentially a crag coming down here, or some bare rock, and a couple of boulders coming round as well. So when the map came up, and there's a fairly distinctive crag on the left hand side of the spur that we want, I'd seen this crag and was fairly certain that must be the right place, as it's the biggest crag I can see and there doesn't seem to be any other crag shapes matching that up. So in looking at that, we want just to the right hand side of that crag on the top of the spur, and Charlie's the only kite just to the right hand side of that crag, and it does seem to be on top of where it starts to drop away. So that one should be Charlie to start off this station. Quite a simple opener. I don't know whether it's easy or not though. Before coming forward, and I think this second task was definitely the hardest, wanting the re-entrant here. And what I kind of said here was Echo seems too close to the crag to be in the correct re-entrant, and Foxtrot seems to be maybe in this re-entrant, and so this might be none of them. However, I did take a closer inspection into it and saw that the crag ends here, and then we've got a boulder which does seem to have Bravo on it, and then there's another bit of rock and potentially even a crag here by Alpha which matches up down here, and we want to go to the other side of Alpha and actually a bit further away from us. So going to the other side of Alpha and a bit further away brings us to Foxtrot in that re-entrant. And then things do seem to match up, with this contour being the bulge around here. Foxtrot does seem to be in the correct re-entrant, and so even though it took almost half the time in the station, I'm very happy with Foxtrot there for the second task, before we then actually went over to the crag which we have already said had Alpha at the foot of it. So that one should be Alpha for the third task as well. And then for the fourth one we went back to another re-entrant, and here we were deciding whether it was Echo or 0. I think it was pretty clear of that, knowing we had Charlie on the spur before, and I think Delta's just further down from this one, so it's probably on that contour there. And actually looking at the line from this contour, that contour, and the re-entrant down there, we have this contour, the contour with Delta on, and there's a re-entrant further down which does seem to have Echo in it, and it also seems to line up with the end of this crag like it should. So this one to me was a bit harder, but I'm fairly certain it is Echo. Before the final task came, and we wanted the boulder on the left hand side of the crag and the southeastern side of that crag, and we have already said that Bravo is on the boulder and is definitely on the southeastern side, so it was a nice Bravo to end off the day. And it does look like I was probably clean apart from station 4, which could have 2 or 3 mistakes, so we're looking at a time of 247 or 277 seconds. It's only a 5 station day, so mistakes do count more. We'll have to see how we've done, so let's go back and have a look at the results to see that I am currently in 36th, which I'm not really disappointed with at all. It was quite a tough day, and especially with 2 or 3 mistakes, that doesn't surprise me. So we'll have to see how far we do end up dropping in this event, as I'm expecting more people to come above me, but we'll see that when you join me later for the overall results. And we are back to see that I have dropped down slightly here to 63rd place, equal with both Pina and Severin, with a time of 277 seconds and 3 mistakes, all in the station that we were suspecting. It does look like I was actually first after station 1, but then it all went downhill at station 4, which isn't a surprise. It's the station I found the hardest and I took the longest on. But it is very well done here to Alessio for winning today's event with a time of 133 seconds, 12 seconds quicker than Ralph, who was then 35 seconds quicker than Viola. So well done to the three of them for the first, second and third places, but it does look like nobody completed today's event with no mistakes. So it was a very hard day, and so if you did make a couple of mistakes, you haven't really done too bad at all. In terms of where Alessio won the event though, he was joint with me in first place after station 1 and really held the lead, dropping to 6th place in station 3, but his single digit places in all the other stations meant that he was pretty much guaranteed in his first place, so very well done to him. For me, the most interesting station for percentages here was station 3 here, which does surprise me because I was expecting it to be station 4, but actually quite a lot of the percentages here were not too high. We had our lowest percentage with the 4th task of 26%, with 291 going with Delta, 88 for Charlie, but 167 managed to get it right with Echo. And this was the one with the 3 kites in the re-entrance. I'm not really surprised that there was a spread of answers, but for me it just needed to be higher up the re-entrance than both Charlie and Delta, so it did seem to fit quite nicely for me as Echo. Well done to the other 166 which managed to get that. And also the first task here was only just above 50% with 56%, 357 realising it was Bravo, and having a spread of wrong answers with also some zeros here. Again, that doesn't really surprise me because we're just coming into the station. It might be hard for you to locate yourself on the map, but again, well done to the 357 that did manage to get that one right. And really, as much as the percentage levels were lowest in this station, they were still quite low in places, with at least one station having quite a low percentage. So I do think this shows it was a very hard day for us, and I think if you have just managed to get a few right in every station today, you have done a very good job. So well done. We are just going to go back now and have a look at the station which I did make my mistakes in, just to have a look and check that I did cover everything, because there were 3 mistakes, and I think it was clear, especially for the first task, that it was a 0, and we have realised now that actually what I'm seeing here is a small bump in the land isn't big enough to be mapped, and actually this hill here is the form line with Alpha and Bravo on top of them, which did make Bravo the answer to this one. I can see that clearly now. And also this third task being a 0 rather than Echo. Echo is on this small triangle here with Delta on the boulder next to it, which we'll see in a minute. So the boulder we actually want is hiding behind the tree right back there, and so it's miles away and it's definitely a 0, as well as this final task which we have said is Delta rather than 0 on that boulder. So those are my mistakes for today. Well done if you did manage to get those right. But let's go and have a look now at the current standings in the series so far after one event, and we don't need to look at the singles because we know exactly what those are. We can instead go to the clubs and see that Massey have taken the lead after having 2 people in the 1st and 3rd places today. They've done very well and are currently already 13 points ahead of KBS from Poland, as I'm going to call them, who are then 3 points ahead of LS37. So Massey have already gained a big lead after this first event, and I'm sure they're probably going to maintain that across the whole series, but after that it is very bunched, with also OLV about a point behind LS37, and then OKZ from Latvia only 3 points behind them. So very well done to those teams for doing well so far, and also the countries. It's probably not a surprise to see that the Italians are in the lead, 14 points ahead of the Germans, who are then 4 points ahead of the Swedes. So like Massey, who are Italian, the Italians are already getting a lead here, and it is bunched up with the countries below them, with the Czechs only being 1.5 points behind the Swedes, and the Portuguese there coming in just under 2 points behind the Czechs. But with only 3 of your 5 results being counted in both the competitors, clubs and countries, it is still anyone's game with 4 more events to go, and we will have to see how this plays out as we go. But it is a big thank you to both Juha and Esko for putting on today's event. It was a very good opener, and I'm excited to see exactly what we've got in store for the rest of the week. But for now, this is going to be the end of today's video, so thank you all again for watching. If you'd like to like the video as always and be subscribing to the channel, making sure that you click the bell next to the subscribe button and select all so you're notified whenever I release a video, and also be remembering to share these videos. As always, I've noticed the viewer count on these videos has gone down, so do let me know if you are enjoying these videos. If you still want me to make them, I am enjoying making them, and it is quite nice to have the pressure of you guys seeing all my mistakes. But do let me know if you think there is any way that I could improve these, and also remember to be commenting down below any extra analysis you think I missed from this video and any extra bits you want me to add, and I will join you tomorrow for the second round of the TORUS tournament.